Okay, what you're going to learn in this tutorial here is our player character. The animation sprites will be provided for you in the description. Basically, our character, as the character is out of the water, the character moves at normal speed. The character jumps and falls at normal speed. When the character jumps into the water, though, you can see the character slowly goes down into the water. The character also moves slower while they go through the water. The character can get to the ledge and jump out of the water as well. So this is what you're going to be learning today as you work your way through this tutorial. $600. Okay, so now with all of that done, I'm going to click the preview button. Okay, so as our player walks here, notice the speed that the player is walking at. When I press jump, the falling speed, right? So now I'm about to jump into the water. And now you can see the falling speed. You can also see the speed that the player is walking at. So the player is responding like they're in water, which is what we want. However, there are some things that we need to do, because if we want our player to get up out of the water, right now our player can only jump one time. So we're going to work on that now. Okay, the way we're going to allow the player to be able to get out of the water is we're going to add a variable. Think of a variable as just a holder of information. The variable can hold different types of information. The main thing you want to be concerned here is the variable's ability to hold numbers right now. So we're going to click on New Scene. There's multiple ways of making variables in Gdevelop. We're going to go to our player. We're going to go to these three dots. We're going to left click here. And then we're going to go to Edit Object Variables. We're going to left click here. We're then going to go to this plus button to the right. And we're going to name this capital V swim. Put the V there just since it's a variable. We're going to let everything else stay as it is. We're going to click apply. So now basically we have a holder of information attached specifically to this player. So now we're going to click back on New Scenes and Events. Okay, so now that we have that variable made and attached to the player, what we want to do is we want to have when the player is in collision with the water, we want that variable to equal to 2. So just imagine the variable being a character holding up a sign saying 2. And whenever that sign 2 is held up, we want certain things to happen. So to have the variable basically equal to, or like my explanation to you holding up a sign saying 2, we need to click Add Action. You need to be very careful here that you don't scroll down and go right to Variables. You want to click Common Action for all objects, because the variables for here and beyond here are different. So you click Common Action for all, then you click Variables here, and you'll see Modify the variable of in object. You want to click that, and then the variable of the object you want to modify is the player. So you're going to click that. So now the player, you'll click here for the variable. So you click here and you can see this is the variable we made called vSwim, right? So remember, the variable is something that holds information. We're having it hold, in this case, numbers. And I told you to think of it as being like a character holding up a sign, right? We want this sign to say equals 2. So we're going to click equal or set to. And then for the setting here, we're going to select 2. Then we're going to click OK. Okay, so all this is saying is when the player is in collision with the water, the variable will equal 2. So imagine a variable being a character named vSwim, that whenever the player is in collision with the water, that character holds up a sign saying 2. Okay, so when 2 is shown, we want certain things to happen. Now we're about to set another action so that when the when the player is not in the water, that variable, or if you imagine it being like a character, is going to hold up 0, right? So to do this, we can just left click here, right click, select copy, and then right over these letters here, I'm going to right click, select paste, right? So this is the same. We just need to change this setting. So I'm going to click here, and we want this to be 0. You could just press enter or click out like I did. So now when the player is in collision with the water, our variable, or you imagine a character holding up a sign, says 2. When the player is not in the water, our variable, which is really it's a way of holding information, but I don't think it's a bad thing saying, imagine a character named VSwim holding up a sign saying 0. When a character holds up a sign saying 2, we want certain things to happen. When the character holds up 0, we want certain things to happen. So right now we're just saying what the character is doing. And again, it's me making an analogy, hopefully one to help you understand what the variable is doing. So we didn't say what to happen when the variable equals 2 or equals 0. So that's what we are about to do. Okay, the reason we set up the variable in the first place is because we need to have the player be able to get out of the water. So that's the reason why we're even doing that in the first place. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to add condition, because the player jumps, but the player can't jump out of the water. So what we want to do is set something up so that when we press the jump key, we can set up a way for the player to get out of the water. So we're looking for the keyboard. So we're going to click here, and our regular jump set by our platform behavior is spacebar. So we're going to left click here, and then we're going to type in SPACE. Here's the spacebar here. We'll left click there, and then we'll click OK. Okay, so we have space bars pressed. So when the space bar is pressed, we want something to happen. What do we want to happen? Well, what we want to happen is we want the variable to do something. So I'm going to click here, left click here, right click. I just chose this one over the other one just because I chose this one. I'm going to select copy. I'm going to hover right. Let me click here. I'm going to hover right over these words, and then I'm going to right click paste. So now we have this space bar is pressed, equals 2. We don't want this. We want this to equal 1. So now when the player is in collision with the water, the variable equal 2. Imagine being like a character named VSwim holding up a 2. When a player is not in collision with the water, imagine the player being like a character VSwim holding up a 0. Now when the space bar is pressed, that character will be holding up a 1. So now we just have to tell this, okay, what happens when this variable, or like as I'm describing it, character holds up these numbers, like what to do. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up to have the variable do something. So we're going to click add condition, common conditions for all objects. We're going to scroll down to variables. We're going to go to value of an object's variable. The variable is connected to the player. The variable is named VSwim. The sign of the test is going to be greater than, is how we're going to make, basically what we want to happen is when we press a space bar, we want the character to be able to jump multiple times so that the character can get out of the water. We're going to use this greater than to do that. So I'm going to left click on greater than, and then for this setting here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 0. So then I'm going to click OK. Okay, so basically what is going on here is we're saying when the variable is greater than 0, we want something to happen. So when this is greater than 0, so remember, when the player is in water, this says 2, right? This being the variable says 2. So it's like a character holding up a sign that says 2. So that would be greater than this. So that would happen. This would happen, cause something to happen when the player is in water. And as far as this is when the player is out of the water. The variable would equal 0, or like a character holding up a sign saying 0. So nothing would happen here because this is 0. For whatever we're about to do here, this has to be greater than 0. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to simulate pressing the jump button for our player. So we're going to click Add an Action. We're going to go down to Platform Behavior. So it's under Controls. We're going to select Simulate Jump Key Press. We'll left click there. The object we want to do this for is the player. So then we'll click OK. Okay, so when the variable is greater than 0, we'll simulate pressing jump when the space key is pressed. Now we want to be able to do this more than once, so we're going to go to Add an Action, Platform Behavior, Controls, okay, so it's not controls, it's options. So it's allow, again, jumping. So we'll left click there. The object is the player. Then we'll click OK. Okay, so when the space key is pressed, we only want this to happen once. So you can push the key, space key down, and you might have it down for a half a second. However, you want that we want Gdevelop to only register that the space key was pressed once. In that half a second, we don't want the space key to be registered as being pressed numerous times. So the way that we do that is we go to Add Condition, we go to Advanced, and then we select Trigger Once While True. So I'm going to left click here. This is fine. And then we'll click, when I say this, I'm talking about these things, the way they're set up specifically. We're going to click OK. Okay, now with all of this set up, I'm going to click this preview button here. So now I'm pressing the arrow keys. Our character is walking as they should at regular speed. Our character is idling like they should. When I press jump, the character has regular falling speed. Now I'm going to jump in the water. You can see our character has the water falling speed. Our character is walking slower in the water. And now we should be able to press the space key multiple times, and our character is able to get to the top of the water. Now, there's an issue because our character can't get out of the water. Okay, this actually isn't that difficult to deal with. I'm going to go to New Scene. I'm going to left click on Ladder. I'm going to drag this out. I'm going to left click on the ladder, click on this square and drag this to the side to make this thinner. I'm putting this right next to the edge of our ground there. I'm going to double click on ladder, click on behaviors. You can see this purple line underneath, purple outline underneath behaviors. I'm going to click plus. I'm going to go to platforms. We have all these different all these different behaviors. I'm going to select platform. Where we see grab offset on y-axis. Right now this is set for 0. I'm going to change this to 10. And then we see type platform. I'm going to go to this little triangle here. It's kind of difficult to see. I'm going to left click here, and then I'm going to select ladder. Now I'm going to select apply. Okay, so now with that done, I'm going to click the preview button. So our character is walking. I'm going to jump into the water. So now when I repeatedly press the space key and then I come here, if I press the space as well as the up button, now we can jump out of the water. There is still two issues to deal with. One, we don't want this to be here, so we want to hide this. And two, if I walk right off the edge, you see that? How our character is walking as the character goes to the water. Okay, the way we're going to deal with this, we're going to click on New Scene Events. We're going to go to Add Condition. We're going to go to Scene. We're going to select at the beginning of the scene. that information up there is fine. We're going to click OK. We're then going to select Add Action. We're going to go to Common Actions for All. We're going to select Visibility and then select Hide. And then we're going to select Ladder. So I just left click to get that selection around the ladder to go away. Now I'm going to click OK. So now with that done, when I click the preview button, the ladder is still there. So if I jump in the water, then I press up, we still jump out, but we no longer can see the ladder. Okay, now we just need to set things up so that our character doesn't continue to walk as they go into the water. So we have our condition that says that when the player's in collision with the water, do these things right here. So we'll go to Add Action, and we will add another action that says when the player's in is in collision with the water, go into a jump animation. The way we're going to do that is we're going to select Sprite, Animations and Images. We're going to go down to change the animation by name. The object we're working with is the player. The animation name is jump. So I'm going to hold shift to put in a quotation, put in jump, and then hold shift to put in another quotation. I'm then going to click OK. Okay, so now we're going to click the preview button. So now our character walks back and forth like they should. I'm going to jump into the water. Character sinks. Hey, wait a second. Oh, I see that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so now our character goes to the bottom, and our character doesn't walk because we have that set to jump animation. So I'm going to click here to come out of our preview window. Okay, the way we can deal with this is I'm going to left click here. See, we have this blue line right here. That's important because I want to make a new event. So I'm going to left click here. I'm going to go to Players in Collision with Water. I'm going to left click here, right click, and then select Copy. I'm then going to hover right over these words where we see Add Condition. I'm going to right click, select Paste. And then where we have this set animation of player to jump, I'm going to left click here, right click, then select Cut. I'm then going to right click over Add Action and then Paste. And what we want to do is have this only trigger once. So we're going to click Add Condition, Advanced, and then trigger once while true. So I'm going to left click here. Those settings up top are okay. So since they're okay, I'm going to click OK. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to click the preview button. So our character walks back and forth fine. The character jumps fine. The character jumps into the water. The character is walking fine. The character gets out of the water fine. I'm going to walk into the water. Okay. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there that like the videos on this channel and we share them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe and thank you for viewing.